The note was 3 words long. I can't. Sorry. My twin sister Raven was gone. And with her, the only thing stopping the Valente crime family from burning our house to the ground. I stared at the white silk dress hanging on the back of the door. It looked like a ghost. My father was weeping in the kitchen. He knew what Gabriel Valente did to people who broke a contract. He didn't just want his money back. He wanted a bride. A trophy to unite our families and wash the debt clean. I touched the cold silk. Raven was the brave one. The loud one. The one who could stare down a wolf and make him blink. I was the shadow. The quiet twin. But if the Valente family came here and found an empty room, they wouldn't just be angry. They would end us. I looked at my reflection. Same eyes. Same nose. Same lips. But Raven was fire and I was ice. If I put on this dress, if I walked down that aisle, I would be walking into the lion's den. I picked up the scissors. My hands were trembling, but I didn't stop. Snip. One lock of hair fell. Then another. Until I looked exactly like her. Welcome to the Diary of Hearts. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I post dangerously addictive Mafia romance stories like this one 2 times a week. Warning. Once you start, you won't be able to stop. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing which parts of the world my stories reach. Now, let's get into the church. The church smelled like old wood and expensive cologne. The pews were full of men in dark suits. Soldiers. Killers. And at the end of the aisle, him. Gabriel Valente. He didn't look like a groom. He looked like a judge waiting to pass a sentence. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Be Raven, I told myself. Shoulders back. Chin up. Don't let him see the fear. Raven wouldn't be scared. Raven would be bored. So I forced a smirk onto my face. It felt like wearing a mask made of glass. I reached the altar. He didn't smile. He reached out and took my hand. His skin was warm, his grip firm. Not painful, but possessive. Like he was claiming property. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. I expected a greeting. I expected a vow. Instead, he whispered, "You're late, Raven. If you made me wait another minute, I would have burned your father's house down with him inside." I flinched. I couldn't help it. The threat was so casual, so cold. Gabriel pulled back, his dark eyes narrowing. He studied my face. He was looking for a crack. Raven would have laughed. Raven would have told him to go to hell. But I just stared at him, my breath caught in my throat. "You're shaking," he said. He didn't sound angry. He sounded confused. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. He was testing me. I had to speak. I had to sound like her. "It's cold in here, Gabriel," I said, trying to sound confident. "Just get it over with." He stared at me for a second longer than comfortable. His eyes were like black coffee, dark, bitter, and impossible to look away from. Then he turned to the priest. "Proceed." The rings were on. The papers were signed. I was no longer Viola. I was Mrs. Valente. The car ride to his estate was silent. The windows were tinted black. I was trapped in a leather box with the most dangerous man in the city. I kept my gaze out the window, trying to control my breathing. 1 hour down, I thought. A lifetime to go. "Since when do you read?" he asked. My head snapped up. There was a book in my purse, a habit I couldn't break. I had pulled it out without thinking. Raven hated reading. I got bored, I lied. "You usually get bored and start drinking," he replied. "Or throwing things." He leaned closer. The scent of him, sandalwood and danger, filled the air. He took the book from my hands. He didn't throw it. He just looked at the cover. Then he looked at me. "You're different today, Raven. Quiet. Obedient." "Maybe I'm just tired," I whispered. "Or maybe," he said, his voice low, "you're finally realizing who you belong to." A shiver went down my spine. It wasn't fear. It was something else. Something I wasn't allowed to feel for a monster. His penthouse wasn't a home. It was a fortress of glass and steel, floating above the city. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Gabriel walked in first. He didn't hold the door. He threw his keys on a marble table that cost more than my father's life. "Welcome home, Mrs. Valente." The sarcasm in his voice was sharp enough to cut skin. I stepped inside, clutching my small bag. Raven would have had 10 suitcases. She would have already been pouring herself a drink. I just stood by the door, afraid to touch anything. He turned around, loosening his tie. The sound of the silk sliding against his collar was the only noise in the room. "Stop standing there like a statue," he said. "Go to the bedroom. Second door on the left." My stomach dropped. The bedroom. The contract was signed. The debt was paid. But in his world, a marriage wasn't real until... I couldn't move. My feet were lead. Raven had been with men before. She knew how to play this game. She knew how to seduce. I had never even been kissed. If he touched me, if he realized I had no idea what I was doing, the lie would be over. I went to the room. It was huge. A king-sized bed dominated the center, covered in dark gray sheets. I sat on the edge, my hands gripping the mattress so hard my knuckles turned white. A moment later, the door opened. Gabriel filled the doorway. He had taken off his jacket. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the top, revealing the tattoo on his neck. A black serpent. He looked tired. And dangerous. "You're still in the dress," he said. He walked toward me. Every step was a drumbeat in my chest. He stopped right in front of me. I couldn't look up at his face. I stared at his expensive belt buckle. "Usually, you're the one tearing my clothes off, Raven," he mocked. "What game are you playing tonight?" "The Shy Virgin Act." He reached out. His fingers grazed my bare shoulder. I flinched so hard I almost fell off the bed. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the anger. Waiting for him to force me. But nothing happened. The room went dead silent. I opened my eyes. Gabriel was staring at me. His hand was frozen in midair. His expression wasn't angry anymore. It was calculating. "You're terrified," he whispered. I stammered. "Raven never flinches," he said quietly. "Raven fights back. Raven scratches and bites." He leaned down, bracing his hands on the mattress on either side of me, trapping me. His face was inches from mine. I could feel the heat radiating off him. He searched my eyes, looking for the lie. Then he pushed himself back up. He walked to the dresser and grabbed a pillow. "I don't sleep with shaking women," he said. "It's bad for business." He tossed the pillow onto the chaise lounge on the other side of the room. He turned his back to me and started unbuttoning his shirt completely. "Take the bed," he ordered. "Don't make me regret it." He lay down on the couch, facing away from me. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He spared me. The monster had mercy. I curled up on the edge of the massive bed, still in my wedding dress, and watched the rise and fall of his breathing until the sun came up. I woke up before him. Old habits. The kitchen was sleek and untouched, like a museum exhibit. I found coffee beans in the freezer and eggs in the fridge. I needed to do something with my hands to stop shaking. So I cooked. The smell of espresso and omelets filled the cold air. It felt normal. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I heard footsteps. What the hell is that smell? I spun around. Gabriel was standing in the doorway. He was wearing gray sweatpants and a t-shirt. His hair was messy. He looked less like a Don and more like a man. A very confused man. He looked at the stove. Then at me. Then at the coffee pot. "Did you break into my kitchen?" he asked. "I made breakfast," I replied. "Do you want some?" He blinked. Once. Twice. He walked over slowly, like the stove might explode. He picked up a piece of toast. He inspected it. Then he took a bite. He chewed slowly, his eyes never leaving my face. "My staff cooks," he said. "You don't cook. You told me once that domestic life was for boring peasants." Crap. Raven and her big mouth. I shrugged, turning back to the pan so he wouldn't see the panic in my eyes. "People change, Gabriel," I said. "Overnight," he challenged. He stepped closer. He was right behind me now. I could feel his chest against my back. He reached around me, not to touch me, but to grab the coffee mug I had just poured. His arm brushed mine. Sparks, hot and electric, shot through my skin. "Whatever this game is," he whispered near my ear, "I like the coffee. But if I find out you're poisoning me, I'll make you drink it first." He took a sip, hummed in approval, and walked away. I leaned against the counter, my knees weak. He was suspicious. He knew something was wrong. But for the first time, he didn't look at me with hate. He looked at me with hunger. And that was more dangerous than the hate. 3 days later, he took me out of the penthouse. Put on the red dress, he said. It wasn't a request. We were going to the mayor's charity gala. A room full of vipers in silk. I stood in front of the mirror, the red silk clinging to every curve like a second skin. Raven would have strutted. She would have owned the room. I felt like a fraud in a costume. Gabriel's hand was on the small of my back as we walked in. His touch was proprietary. Heavy. Like a brand. Every eye in the room turned to us. The Valente heir and his wild bride. I heard the whispers. I kept my chin up, just like I practiced. Smile. Look bored. Don't engage. But then I saw him. Across the room, near the bar. A man with a scar on his cheek and a smile like a shark. Hugo. Raven's ex-boyfriend. The one she owed money to before she ran. My blood turned to ice. He knew Raven. He knew her laugh, her walk, her secrets. If he spoke to me for 5 seconds, the game was over. He saw me. His eyes widened, then narrowed. He started walking straight for us, pushing through the crowd. I tried to pull away, to hide behind Gabriel, but Gabriel's grip tightened on my waist. Stay close, he murmured. Wolves smell fear. Hugo stopped right in front of us. He reeked of cheap whiskey and trouble. Well, Hugo slurred. Look who cleaned up nice. Didn't think you had it in you, Raven. I couldn't breathe. My throat closed up. Gabriel stiffened beside me. I felt the dangerous energy rolling off him in waves. What's the matter, babe? Hugo laughed. Cat got your tongue? Or did you forget about the $5,000 you owe me from poker night? $5,000. Raven had gambling debts I didn't even know about. Hugo reached out to touch my arm. To grab me. I flinched back, stumbling in my heels. But before his hand could land, Gabriel moved. It happened in a blur. 1 second Hugo was reaching for me. The next, Gabriel had his wrist in a vice grip. You could hear the bones creak. The room went silent. The music stopped. Gabriel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He leaned in close to Hugo's face, his voice barely a whisper, but it carried across the quiet room. Touch my wife again, and you lose the hand. Understand? Hugo paled. He looked from Gabriel to me terrified. He nodded frantically. Gabriel released him. Hugo stumbled back and practically ran out the door. Gabriel turned to me. His eyes were blazing. I expected him to ask about the money. I expected him to ask why I was scared of a low-level thug. Instead, he pulled me closer. We're leaving, he said. The car ride home was silent again. But this time, it felt different. Gabriel's hand stayed on my thigh the entire drive. Not threatening. Claiming. When we got back to the penthouse, he poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. He didn't offer me one. He just watched me over the rim of his glass. You're lying, he said finally. My heart stopped. About what? I whispered. About everything. He set the glass down with a soft click. Raven doesn't cook. Raven doesn't read. Raven doesn't flinch. He took a step toward me. And Raven sure as hell doesn't owe money to bottom feeders like Hugo. I backed up until I hit the wall. Gabriel, Who are you? He asked, his voice deadly calm. I couldn't answer. My throat was too tight. His eyes tracked over my face, piece by piece, like he was solving a puzzle. When did you know? I finally managed. Since the wedding, he said. Raven never trembled. The confession hit me like a punch to the chest. You knew? This whole time. I suspected, he corrected. I confirmed it the morning you made breakfast. Raven can't even boil water. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor, my red dress pooling around me like blood. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. He crouched down in front of me, tilting my chin up so I had to look at him. Because whoever you are, he said softly, you're better than her. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I'm Viola, I whispered. Her twin. She ran and I didn't want my father to die. Gabriel's jaw tightened. Viola, he repeated, like he was testing the weight of it. The quiet one. The invisible one, I corrected. Not anymore, he said. That's when the intercom buzzed. Gabriel's head guard's voice crackled through. Sir, there's a woman at the gate. She says she's your wife. My blood ran cold. Gabriel pressed the intercom button, his eyes never leaving mine. Let her up, he said coldly. I stood up, backing away. My legs felt like jelly. Gabriel, please, I begged. I can explain. Quiet, he commanded. The elevator doors slid open. And there she was. Raven. She looked terrible. Her hair was wet from the rain, her makeup smeared. She was wearing ripped jeans and a leather jacket that cost more than my entire wardrobe. But the smirk on her face? That was intact. She strutted into the room like she owned the place. Like she was the one who had been sleeping in his bed for the last week. Well, look who decided to play house, Raven sneered. Nice dress, sis. Did you steal that too? I couldn't speak. Shame burned my cheeks. Raven walked right past me and headed straight for Gabriel. She reached out to touch his arm, familiar and brazen. Sorry about the delay, babe, she purred. Had some business to finish. But I'm here now. Ready to be Mrs. Valente. Gabriel didn't flinch. He looked down at her hand on his arm like it was a piece of trash. Then he looked at me. Viola, he said. He said my name. My real name. The sound of it on his lips made my knees buckle. He knew. He had known for a while. Wait, you know? Raven asked, confused. You know she's a fraud? I know exactly who she is, he replied. Raven laughed. A harsh, cruel sound. Great, she said. Then kick her out. She's boring anyway. I'm the one you signed the contract for, remember? The fun one. The one who can handle you. Raven turned to me, her eyes flashing with malice. Get out, Viola. Go back to being invisible. This is the big leagues. I looked at the door. I looked at the rain outside. I had nowhere to go. My father wouldn't take me back. I had ruined everything. I took a step toward the elevator. Defeated. But before I could take another, Gabriel moved. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. His back was to Raven. He was facing me, and only me. He reached out and took my face in his hands. His thumbs brushed away a tear I didn't know had fallen. Where do you think you're going? He asked softly. I lied to you, I sobbed. I'm not her. The contract is with Raven. To hell with the contract, he growled. Behind him, Raven gasped. Excuse me, she screamed. You can't be serious. She's a nobody. She reads books and plays sad piano music. I'm the one you wanted. Gabriel turned slightly, deadly calm. You're right. I wanted fire. I wanted a fight. He turned back to look into my eyes. But then I got peace. I got loyalty. I got someone who cooks breakfast instead of throwing plates. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. The rest of the world faded away. You didn't just wear the dress, Viola. You filled the empty spaces in this house. In my life. Tears spilled over my cheeks. But I deceived you, I whispered. You told the truth, he said. With your eyes. Every single day. Gabriel turned around to face Raven one last time. His voice was ice cold. Get out of my house. But Raven started. The debt is paid, he interrupted. Your sister paid it. With interest. If I see you near her or my family again, well, let's just say you won't be walking out a second time. Raven looked at him. She saw the darkness in his eyes. The promise of violence. She backed away, stumbling toward the elevator. She glared at me one last time, full of hatred, before the doors slid shut. Silence fell over the penthouse again. Just me. And him. Gabriel turned back to me. He didn't say a word. He just picked me up. I wrapped my legs around his waist, burying my face in his neck. He smelled like home. He carried me to the bedroom. Not to the couch. To the bed. He laid me down on the gray sheets, hovering over me, shielding me from everything outside those walls. No more lies, Viola, he whispered. From now on, you're mine. Really mine. Yours, I breathed. He kissed me then. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a promise. A seal on a new contract, one written not in ink, but in heartbeats. I wasn't the shadow anymore. I wasn't the invisible twin. I was Viola Valente. And I was exactly where I belonged. And that's how the shadow twin replaced the missing bride and became his queen. Question of the day. Be honest in the comments. Could you have survived living with Gabriel for a week without cracking? Or would you have run away? Let me know below. If you love this story, hit the like button. It helps more people find our channel. And if you want more dangerous romance, click the video on your screen right now. It's another story about a possessive boss who refuses to let go. I promise it will wreck you. Thanks for watching, hearts. See you in the next story.